Hello and happiest days to you folks. I hope you guys are having an absolutely amazing day. Today, one of the best you've ever had in your entire life. So today on Fridays, I do top 10s. I do typically films or some film, movies and that sort of thing too. And I've done some other stuff like that too. So I started doing my top 10 authors for like 2 weeks back, last 2 weeks. And that sort of thing too, since this channel was initially created to do reviews of older things that people might have forgotten about in the 3 genres that we cover: fantasy, science fiction, and horror too. So today I thought it would be fun for me to knock out my top 10 novels of all time, no matter the genre. Alright, so here we go. As a reminder, I have a big love of fantasy. As a kid, I read J.R.R. Tolkien's The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings when I was in 5th grade, and that sort of thing too. I really loved that stuff, and that became my favorite author in book too. And then after that, I read some Anne McCaffrey, Fred Saberhagen, stuff like that too. And then I started to read contemporaneously things like Margaret Weiss and J.C. Sigmund and R.A. Salvatore. And R.A. Salvatore then became my favorite author too. Then I read Dracula, and that book became my favorite book for like 10 years, maybe. And then when I was in college, I read a novel rather, called Lucifer's Hammer by Larry Niven and Jerry Pournelle, and that became my favorite author book for a while. Then I went back and reread about 10 years later, and it stayed up. But all of those will hit here. But which ones and which order, that sort of thing too, will be definitely a fun thing for you to check out. So let's go ahead and get started. So I started off with a nice top 10, and then I remembered that one of the novels that I really liked wasn't here, so I swapped it on number 10. That wasn't on here. And then after that, I then went and looked at my top 10. I added another, and I was like, oh, I forgot this novel too. And so I added an honorable mention. So this has had some updates. I've been sitting in on this for like a week. Just a heads up. All right, so we do have an honorable mention. Honorable mention is The Fountains of Paradise by one of the big 3, Arthur C. Clarke, in 1979. It did win the Hugo. I read it for this channel. It was my favorite Arthur C. Clarke novel. Just an absolute classic level. So basically what's happening in this novel is that they're building a space elevator. For you folks, a space elevator is really fun, right? And I think that this is the best space elevator story I've ever read. That's The Fountains of Paradise for you folks by Arthur C. Clarke. On top 10 now. Number 10 is the one I added last and swapped it out for the previous number 10. And this is The Night in Lonesome October by Roger Absolutely Awesome Zelazny, 1993. So this combines a few different horror mythoses. I don't want to surprise what's happening and that sort of thing too. But basically there is a ritual and a bunch of bad guys from various myths and legends, and in the public domain, bad guys are getting together, and they are unifying, either to get together to bring a Cthulhuan entity into the world, or to get out. They're just not sure, right? You'll find out what's happening later on. It's very short. Each chapter is a page, and it's kind of like a diary form, if you will. 31 days set in October, so a lot of fans go back and just read one chapter a day. It's very fast to read. It's being told from the point of view of a dog. That's always fun. All right, so that's number 10, A Night in Lonesome October by Roger Zelazny, 1993. Absolutely deserves it. Number 9 is The Left Hand of Darkness by Ursula K. Le Guin from 1969. This novel, and one that we'll hit up further on, definitely sort of put her on the map in a major way. I love its sort of contribution to science fiction and that sort of thing too. Basically what happens here is that we have a group of people are arriving to a human colony. And here in this human colony, unfortunately, what's happening is that these people are are sometimes female and sometimes male, and that sort of thing, and they will swap from back and forth. Right. So that's basically the setup and that sort of thing too. I definitely enjoy what's happening here, level lots. That is the moat. That is the left hand of darkness. On the right is one of the best first contact stories I've ever read. And this is The Moat in God's Eye by Larry Niven and Jerry Pournelle. It's from 1974. For you folks, by the same people who wrote Lucifer's Hammer. I love their code tabulation. It's very, very hard sci-fi. So basically what's happening, this is set in the far future. Humans haven't met anybody yet of an alien nature. This is their first contact of humans to a level lots. And that is the incredibly strong stuff of Larry Niven and J.R.R. It's very strong written, very hard sci-fi. So if you don't like that, you're going to check that out too. All right, and number 9 is The Dying Earth by Jack Vance from 1950. This was published as a group of short stories. So you might not feel that this would be, but it's kind of like. But what if I put iRobot here? iRobot was a group of connected short stories that was published in one volume by Isaac Asimov. I don't think anybody would disagree with that. This is one of the most influential in fantasy. It's basically set in a dying world and that sort of thing too, and magic is sort of taken over. It also has it introduces the style of magic that would become very, very popular with Dungeons and Dragons in today's called fantasy and magic. It's incredibly strong stuff, love it lots. That is The Dying Earth at number 7. Number 6, the last one before top 5 proper, is the one that I added a couple days later. I was like, why didn't I add that one? And that's, of course, Hero's Journey by Sterling Lanier. It's on 1979, 73 rather. So I read this I was reading things on the appendix, and the appendix was by Gary Gygax, and it's in his first edition Dungeons and Dragons, and it's listed all the influences. And it says, go check these things out to get my inspirations, and then also, see. So this has the psychic rules that were used. It's in a post-apocalyptic fantasy, too, and that sort of thing, too. You got a guy writing psychic moves. His best friend is a bear, and that sort of thing, too. He's great stuff in his post-apocalyptic fantasy. You got the rules for psionics. Yeah, character levels up during the course of the adventure too, and it introduces, in my opinion, the druid class. Not the flavor of the druid class. I think that comes from mythology, but it sets up the actual rules of the druid class as being a separate class of magic, trying to protect different things, trying to keep the balance, and that sort of thing too, kind of like druids do. Alrighty, so check that out. That's Hero's Journey. It's incredibly strong stuff by Sterling Lanier. Also, Sterling Lanier was the editor before he became a writer. And he edited things like Frank Herbert's did Dune and put it on a map in a major way. All right, top 5 time. Number 5 is my favorite Michael Moorcock novel. Michael Moorcock is my second favorite author, if you recall. This is The Warhound and the World's Pain. It's from 1981. It's an absolute classic in my mind. This is basically a very, very strong, in my opinion, retelling. It's heavily influenced by the Inferno. And I think that Michael Moorcock just absolutely nails it. And that sort of thing too. I think it's incredibly strong stuff. So basically what's happening here is that you have this mercenary set in the Von Beck series. It introduces the character of Von Beck too, set in the area. And so basically what's happening is that he's doing some very nasty stuff. And he's being charted with the devil to find the holy chalice, the holy grail rather, in order to sort of relieve the world's pain at its darkest moments. And that sort of thing too. And so that's basically it. So I think it's incredibly strong stuff. I think it's just absolutely a classic to my mind. And that is Michael Moorcock's The Warhound and the World's Pain. Number 4 is A War of the Earthsea, but I also alluded to this earlier, by Ursula K. Le Guin, by 68. I've just read this a second time recently for you folks. I give it a 10 out of 10. It's an absolute classic. I love the ending. I just adore it and that sort of thing to him. I think it's incredibly strong world building, incredibly strong character design, incredibly strong just stuff, and that sort of thing too. And so I've read it now twice. Once when I was a kid, I picked up the novel and I read my dad's copies of the series too. It's an absolute classic for you folks. Now it's a top 3 time. Number 3 is the aforementioned Lucifer's Hammer by 77 by Kent Levin, Larry Niven, and Jerry Pournelle too. This is basically what's happening here. is that we have somebody has noticed an amateur. It's set in the future, and this is an amateur astronomer notices a astral comet that's coming towards Earth, and that sort of thing too. It's named as it's named the Hammer. His last name is Hamner, so it's named that, and so forth. After being confirmed and named from him, they go ahead and start doing the good stuff with that, and you check it out, and they see that it's going to come close to Earth, but not actually collide. They're wrong. It's going to collide with Earth, and then, so basically, about the first third of it, maybe or roughly, is pre hammer fall, and then the middle third is basically during hammer fall, and there's some scenes in here, combat scenes, and so forth, that are incredibly evocative in that era. And the last third is basically post hammer fall. That makes sense. And the world, and I love the ending. I love the dark places this place goes. I love how strong and character driven it is. I love it lots. That's Lucifer's Hammer from 77. Now, number 2 is, of course, Dracula by Bram Stoker from 1897. It's the only one from 1897. I do like this novel a lot. Well, I think one of the things it does well in its descriptions of Dracula, but vampires are on the map in a major way. They were already on the map, but it's definitely popularized them. It's that this is a journal writing, right? It's got diaries. It's got articles from newspapers. It's got letters. That sort of thing too, and I think that grounds it and makes it seem more real as a result. And so, for that reason, a lot of people from horror to other places too started to embrace that style of sort of realistically grounding this and saying, yeah, it might sound crazy, but it actually happened because of X, Y, and Z. Like, I love that so much. I don't think that any of the movie adaptations have really sort of pushed that sort of giant character boss and such well. So my number 1 isn't going to be a surprise. It was my first favorite novel, so it's now my favorite novel. The second time around, this is the Lord of the Rings trilogy. It was published written as one novel, so I'm counting it and that sort of a thing too. Because even though it was published as 3 separate novels in a trilogy, it's by J.R.R. Tolkien from 54 and 55. I absolutely adore this stuff all up and down the block. It was my first sort of adult novel, if you will, and that sort of a thing too. It gave me my love of fantasy in a major way, and then afterwards it became my thing, my passion in life. I played Middle-earth role-playing as an example. I love the epic scale. I love what's happening. It took me an entire summer for me to read it, but it's an absolute classic, right? Number 1. But it also put fantasy on the map in a major way for a lot of other people to definitely sort of seriousize and adultified it and matured the audience in the epic scales and that sort of thing too. Just absolutely cannot be understated in its influence too. All right, so here's my top 10 once again. I'll mention is The Fountains of Paradise by Arthur C. Clarke, the Hugo-winning novel from 79. Next up is 1993's A Night in Lonesome October at number 10 by Roger Zelazny. Number 9 is The Left Hand of Darkness by Ursula K. Le Guin in 69. Number 8 is The Moat in God's Eye by Larry Niven and Jerry Pournelle in 74. Number 7 is The Dying Earth, Jack Vance from 50. Number 6 is Hero's Journey by Sterling Lanier in 73. Number 5 is Michael Moorcock's The Warhound and the World's Pain from 81. Number 4 is A Wizard of Earthsea by Ursula K. Le Guin from 68. Number 3 is Lucifer's Hammer from 77 by Niven and Pournelle. Number 2 is Dracula by Bram Stoker from 1897. And number 1 is The Lord of the Rings by J.R.R. Tolkien in 54-55. All right, so there you are. So let me know what your thoughts are, right? I'd be happy to engage you with it further in the comments below. Have you read these? What did you think of them? Would you put them in roughly this order? And that sort of a thing too. And then let me know what your thoughts are too. As a reminder, I'm not somebody who was trained in literary criticism, right? Or I didn't even study English in college. Right, and that sort of thing too. All right, I'm just a fan, so I'm not coming to you from a place of expertise. Right, I'm just a fan. Right, so that means your opinion will be just as valid, right, as mine is, and that's key. And that sort of thing for us talking about it, and that sort of thing too. Right, so definitely let me know what your thoughts are. Top 10 favorite novels of any genres. It's a lot of different things hitting here. Alrighty, so there you go for you folks. Like I mentioned earlier, I do this top 10s of older things typically from this day on Wednesday. I do older video game reviews. I'm currently reviewing the Fallout series, so just Fallout New Tactics. I'm sorry, New Vegas rather. And now next will be Fallout 4. Then the Fallout, every Fallout game, including spin-offs that I've played, I'm putting in at least 10 hours into. I'm giving you my thoughts on in chronological order. So that'll be next for you folks. And then I did the Baldur's Gate series, lots of other recent things too. So you can check that out too. And then on Saturday, tomorrow, I do something I call Serial Saturday, which is dedicated to the forgotten storytelling genre of movie and TV serials like Doctor Who from the 60s, or movie serials. I just did the Zorro series and the five serials. I've done Tarzan, the 2 that are still excellent, including a silent one too. I've done Flash Gordon and all that stuff too. I just started last week. I did Dick Tracy, the first one. I think it's, if I recall correctly, it's by Republic from 37. So you can check that out too. If you're interested in checking them out, I'll do the rest of the Dick Tracy series here coming up soon. So that'll be fun stuff too. On Monday, I do reviews of older things in RPGs, like I mentioned Middle-earth role-playing, or things like Dungeons & Dragons 2, or war games too, like Battletech, that sort of thing too. Right now, I'm reviewing the UK series from Dungeons & Dragons. I've done like 8 or 9 Gary Guys novels too. Modules rather. And that sort of thing too, right? And which is kind of a lesser known thing by the TSR UK series. And then the other 3 days a week, I do older reviews of this channel in the 3 genres that I mentioned before that we cover: science fiction and fantasy and horror too, right? All older stuff, typically. So if those 7 older reviews a week sound like your cup of tea, then great. Welcome to the channel. Have a seat. I think you'll enjoy your time here quite a bit, right? And while you're here, why not do all the YouTube stuff, like hit the subscribe button, the like button, the bell icon to be notified of videos, and then share and watch. Basically, share and watch. Those are the key ways to grow the show for you folks. All right. As you can tell from all those older things, that's the passion of this channel, right? It's even worse. The name comes, right? The worst thing about new books is a quote by French philosopher Jacques Joubert, who said that the worst thing about them was that they kept us from reading the old stuff, right? And there's definitely some more stuff we might have forgotten about. Heavily influential today's stuff, right? But in our passion for the new video game, the new movie, the new short novel, and that sort of thing too, the new experiences, we have sometimes forgotten that these things are standing on the shoulders of giants, right? So let's check out those giants. Not that the new things are bad, they're not. I have done some occasional new stuff too, here and there, but you get the idea. Tell what these stuff is about. Alrighty, and there you are. And if you just made it to the end of this video, I want to thank you so very, very much for just taking some time out of your day and investing it, right? And watching my videos, because we all have so many things, right, that are happening in our lives. And we're pulled in so many different directions too, right? So if you spend this time with me, that's incredibly humbling. And I appreciate that so very, very much. So thanks again, and have an amazing day.